The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
College football just started, and there is one team in all of the land that is 1-0, and it is your Iowa State Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones.
This game was electric. So much fun. Started off extremely slow, I will say that. But I do think that for this being the international showcase of the Big 12, of Iowa State, of Kansas State, like, this was a success. This was so much fun. And is it partially because I've been missing football for so long now? Maybe. I'm not going to lie to you, okay? I have seriously missed everything about college football. Oh, this is a big third down here. Ooh, I would have ran it. I think I would have ran it there. What do you do in this situation? Do you go for it on fourth down or do you kick it? Like that, those were real questions that came up in this game. My personal thoughts, those were just off the top of my head. Why were they off the top of my head? Because I was just thinking them not that long ago, watching Iowa State come away with the victory. Now, to answer the first question on here, initial strengths and weaknesses, okay? Just to go off the rough draft that I have here. The first thing, the strengths, running the ball, Carson Hansen could be the answer for Iowa State this season. That was electric. What really happened in that fourth quarter, there was some interesting strategy with him not really playing at all, or I don't even know if he did in the second or third, and then kind of coming back and being really, really fresh in the fourth. That was awesome. I do think that Rocco, it's there. It's there. We just need to. There was also some that it wasn't there, and maybe that was the throw I'm thinking of specifically, like, was directly to a Kansas State player. So maybe there's an accuracy, but I would be more inclined to think that that was a receiver miscommunication. That's just my opinion. I'm not entirely sure. But Rocco's got it. 2 absolute dimes, and back to back on the second touchdown, right before Brett. I believe it was Bramer that came away with that one-handed catch. Oh, if you would have caught that, I would have lost. I did lose my mind, actually, and it didn't even really matter. And then the next play was a shot to the left sideline. So not only the right, but the left, and Brett Eskilson comes down with that one. Another strength, Brett Eskilson. That guy, I think, is probably, just based off of this one game, which I know it's early, but that guy is probably the answer, the step in for Higgins and Knoll. Like, we've talked so much all offseason. And that's a name that we have talked about a lot. And I've also talked about the tight ends. And Benjamin Bramer showed up, had a 21-yard reception. And based on this box score at 2 receptions for 41 yards, that means his other reception was 20 yards. Benjamin Bramer showed up big time. Gabe Burkle having the 3rd best reception day at 3 for 31. Like, yeah, the tight ends did show up. But Brett Eskilson was absolutely electric today. And I think that he could be the answer at wide receiver. Positives out the wazoo. This team, like, we just beat Kansas State, and I know I'm bouncing around a little bit here, but I'm excited. You know, this team shows a lot of promise, and this Kansas State team is no joke. Like, I do think that Kansas State is a very good squad this year, and you beat them, especially in an environment where there's just a lot going on. I feel very good about that win, and we'll get more into this win specifically in just a little bit. Some of the positives on defense, I thought that the linebackers absolutely flew around. The defensive line, we will talk about in a second. The secondary, pretty good overall. Not too bad overall, I will say. Now, weaknesses. I will say there probably were more weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball, but it's not that bad. Kansas State scored 21, and 2 of them were like 50-plus yard touchdowns. So there is that, and if you take away essentially 100 yards from Avery Johnson, his stat line is like roughly 160 and 0 touchdowns. Now, no interceptions either. So we got to keep that kind of in mind here. A lot of it came on 2 plays, but for the most part, like solid showing from the secondary. Just maybe got to clean it up a little bit there. Linebacker, I thought was actually pretty good. Flew around quite a bit there. Defensive line, I just wish we would have gotten a little more pressure. And I know part of that comes down to game plan. Only sent 3 a lot of this game. And when we did send more, 4 or 5, it didn't really seem like it made a whole lot of sense. Not trying to be negative here, but that was just my initial impression. I do wonder what's going to happen. And now it's obviously different with Kansas State. Like they're a different animal with Avery Johnson and everything, but it's not like this was the hardest team we're going to face all year. So we kind of had to figure that out. Offensively, the weaknesses that I saw, play calling stood out to me. Overall, relatively good game, like really a pretty solid game plan. And I thought we played into what we did well, pretty well, honestly, for the most part. But there were some moments. For one, why are we pitching it to Abu Sama on the goal line? What was the thought process there? I would really like to know, because it was pouring rain. I just like, that is all I'm baffled. I don't even know what else to say. Back when I was in YSF Pop Warner, we did not run pitch very often. We ran stretch almost all the time. And I bring that up because I don't know what gap Sama was going into. Was it B, C? Was he stretching it outside? If he's stretching it completely out to like to the boundary, I can see the argument like, well, we want to pitch it out there, get it out there as fast as we can. When we were in YSF Pop Warner, we barely ever pitched it because you don't know where the ball's going to go from a 5th or a 6th grade quarterback in small town Iowa. Like, it's not like we're like the top program in Texas here. We were some kids that like playing football, and half of those pitches went in the dirt over his head or behind him. So like, we didn't really pitch it very much. We taught the quarterback, you take the snap and you sprint to that handoff point. You just put your head down and you run with that ball and then stick it in his chest. That's how it works. It was a little intense. I remember it like it was yesterday. I don't know why we were pitching that ball. And that's like, it's one play call, probably just an oversight, probably an assumption of, well, the rain's not going to be that big of a deal. This is the best play call in this situation. I get it, but we got to hit that. Like, how do we not come away with points there? I don't know. Obviously I do know because I watched it, but that's got to be it's got to be cleaned up. That has to be. The other one was the drive in the 4th where we came away with the field goal. I really felt like we could have come away with a touchdown there pretty easily. It's just that late in the drive, we somehow got away from running the ball. We were averaging, I don't know what the number was, but I would say probably at least 4 yards a carry flying down the field. We were cooking. I mean, we were moving that ball, and then all of a sudden get into Kansas State territory, and we're like, yeah, actually, let's try throwing it. Let's just sling the rock around a little bit. Didn't work out. We ended up with a field goal. We got those points mattered. Like, they were the reason that Iowa State won this game, the only field goal in this game. And it was a big one, but I just think, I think we could have probably gotten a touchdown there as well. So realistically, if you convert that to a touchdown and then you convert the one that never was at the very end from Hansen, right? So then that pushes it to, let's say 20, what would that be? 28 plus another. So 35. Is that what that is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. Yeah. 5 touchdowns, 35 points. And I think you could maybe argue that Kansas State got a little bit lucky. Let's take away 7 of their points. Iowa State kind of won this game 35-14. Like, they did. So I'm pointing out these weaknesses, but don't get caught up in it. Iowa State played a phenomenal game. Like, they really, really did. And we're going to talk a little bit about some specific player performances here in just a second. But this, I mean, don't feel bad about this at all. We didn't squeak by Kansas State. We were in control a lot of this game. I think that says a lot about Iowa State football. And I think that the future is very, very bright.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
Sometimes no news isn't always the best news.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats.
Getting into the press conferences after the 24-21 loss in the Dublin, Ireland shootout, if you will. It was a great game. Okay. If you did miss my reaction, my instant reaction show on the pod yesterday, you can check that out. I was going to get into a little bit more, but of course my instant reaction right off the bat was a dandy, if I might add. But one thing that of course we knew is that Dylan Edwards didn't play the game. He got one snap in, muffed the punt, and hurt his ankle. Now, for the record, I have watched that replay. I do not know where he hurt his ankle, and I want to learn more about it, but we haven't heard anything about it. And that's where I'm saying the no news could maybe possibly be bad news. Chris Kleiman in his press conference said all that he was told was a few plays in that he will no longer be available in the game. And then he, of course, let the ESPN crew know at halftime on national television that he will not be returning to the game. That was the farthest we got during the game. And then in the press conference, that's what he said about the availability portion. We know nothing else about Dylan Edwards as of right now on Sunday. Of course, they're flying home. It's technically a normal week, but in this long traveling, it becomes a short week for Kansas State. They'll get right back to it. We'll get press conferences from them and some players and possibly other coaches other than Chris Kleiman early in the week. Of course, we'll have you covered on here, Locked On Kansas State. The only thing that we have seen, and that's just from some fans taking photos at the airport, is that Dylan Edwards was seen at the Dublin airport in a walking boot. That doesn't sound like a good thing. That doesn't sound like a great thing at all. Now, he did return to the sidelines during the game. It didn't seem like he was limping. He was away from the offense, so you could tell that he was not going to return to the game before we heard the announcements from Chris Kleiman at the half. And as I mentioned, I didn't see him really limping off the field after the muff punt. I don't know what happened. If it was a freak accident, I'm not really sure. If it was a sprain or a swelling. Either way, I'm not excited about the fact that we don't have much news about it. Makes me a little on edge, and I'm a little concerned. Now, hopefully it's something minor. Hopefully it's something that's just not worth discussing, other than the fact that he just wasn't available for the Dublin game. Maybe they're playing it safe. Who knows? It also comes to mind on the same topic of Dylan Edwards. You might as well stick here. When they discussed with Avery Johnson, they talked to Avery Johnson, the pressers. One of the biggest questions that popped up was, the beginning of the game started pretty slow. Was that because of the Dylan Edwards injury? And he was, of course, I think Avery Johnson is stepping forward and trying to be a lot more accountable this year, being a lot more transparent, which is already we've seen that in the offseason, and he definitely did that in the presser. And he was straightforward with his answer in this one as well. He said, yeah, we had plenty set up for Dylan Edwards in this one. Bunch of stuff game planned for Dylan Edwards. And of course, they had to make some adjustments. Joe Jackson came in, and for what he had in front of him, other than that fumble, I think he did just a fine job. I think that obviously you could have improved there. And then I think Devin Rice kind of stuck out into the spot to where you were going to hopefully put Joe Jackson. I think Devin Rice did an okay job as well. Of course, that running game would have been a lot more explosive if Dylan Edwards was in the backfield. I love the fact of having Dylan Edwards and Joe Jackson and Devin Rice as a 1-2-3 combo in that backfield this year. Coach Brian Anderson has discussed this entire offseason that he feels like this is the deepest running back room he's had since being at Kansas State. But look, when you don't have your star running back in week 0, the first drive of the game, for the entirety of the first game, you're going to see some hiccups. Joe Jackson, I think he's got a ton of upside. I don't think people talk about him enough. I've said that all offseason as well. but he's not yet at that point to where we can say, yeah, he's ready to fill those shoes of DJ Giddens' size, because Dylan Edwards obviously isn't going to do that. He's going to be able to take those type of carries to get up the field and average you 6-7 yards a pop confidently. Now, we did see that a couple times even in this game, especially the one where he fumbled. He had a great run until he dropped the football. He's just not there yet. I don't think he's far behind, but throwing him to the fire, which sometimes has to work. Sometimes you have no choice, and sometimes it works out great. Austin Romaine, perfect example earlier in his career, but it just didn't work out to the best of the ability in Dublin's game. Now, you can also point at the offensive line. I don't think the offensive line was perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I think there's a lot of work to do on the offensive line. Both offensive lines, I think, were pretty dreadful in this one. I think it's a miracle that Avery Johnson threw almost 300 yards in this one because the offensive line wasn't the best. Let's just put it there. I'm not going to dig too much into it without doing a full replay. I plan on rewatching the game tonight. I do plan on looking at PFF scores tonight, all that good stuff, and I will have you covered. We're going to do a complete breakdown, a little deeper than usual, probably in the regular season before we switch to North Dakota, just because North Dakota hasn't played a game yet. They're an FCS school. There's not as much coverage as a Power 4 Big 12 school. So we'll probably focus a little bit more on this Dublin game and talk about how the team can actually improve and what to look for keys of improvement in the North Dakota game this coming Saturday. I think we just have no choice, to be completely honest. A couple other things that popped up here on this presser before we dive in a little bit more. Chris Kleiman, he said he thought Avery got that first down. I mean, I think that's fair to say that fourth down at the 30, not 4th and 30, fourth down at the 30-yard line. He's right with me. He thinks that Avery Johnson did get that first down, but of course he also believes that the replay wasn't going to matter because of the lines being terrible, the Iowa State spot. It was going to be hard to be able to tell the difference between if it was going to be reversed or not. And I agree with him. And although you think that Avery Johnson got the spot, and if that's something that you want to look back at, put it on your socials. If you want to talk to your friends at the bar about saying this game was completely different because the ref screwed Kansas State because Avery Johnson should have got that first down and the game should have changed, I'm going to tell you to hold your horses a little bit. You can't put the referees in a position whatsoever to dictate that game. You can't make it to the point where they have to think about reviewing it. On a play so important to the game where you're deciding to make an aggressive decision, which might I add, I'm still super happy they're aggressive. So happy that they're being aggressive with this type of offense that they have this year. You can't put the referees in a decision to dictate the game. We saw it last year in Farmageddon, the first play of the game, that pitch out to Dylan Edwards, that was a fumble. Apparently, according to the review, if you go back and watch the national broadcast, the rules analyst that pops up on the TV says this one should have been reversed. I can't believe we got this wrong. And of course, that changed the entire landscape of things. Iowa State scored on that touchdown right off the bat. So there's a lot of things that has happened where Kansas State has shot themselves in the foot over the last couple of Farmageddons. And of course, the one that really hurts the most and stings the most right now, the game on Saturday in Dublin, Ireland, a game that should have been a game in Manhattan, a home game that some of the players felt like it didn't feel like it was at home at all.
This is the Mariners Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Seattle Mariners.
The greatest catching season of all time from Mr. Cal Raleigh. It's great to see him break the record for most home runs by a catcher, but honestly, it was probably going to be that way anyway. But I think today he officially passed it with the home run total, beating Salvador Perez, getting to number 49 with still over a month left in the season. Cal Raleigh is the story of today's game. But man, is it good to win a series that you're supposed to win. It's good to not have to have a nail biter where you're going down to your high leverage guys to come through in big moments. You get a good starting pitching performance. You get good offense up and down the lineup. But the big thing about the offense today is it's the top of the order, man. You get Obviously, 3 hits from Cal Raleigh. He just had an awesome game today. Good to break out of his slump a little bit. I don't want to say slump because it's so hard to call it a slump when it's been like 3 or 4 games. But when you have those expectations for that type of player, you can call it a slump. But you get 2 hits from Randy Rosarena, scores 3 runs. That's what you want from the top of your lineup, just setting the table. And it started off the top of the game. Cal Raleigh with 3 hits, 2 home runs, obviously breaking the record. You get a hit from Julio, gets 2 RBIs, though, on that hit, and he gets a walk. That's great for Julio Rodriguez. Gets some time to rest later in the game. 2 walks from Eugenio Suarez. I love what I'm seeing from Gino lately. It's not the fact that he's slugging home runs left and right. That's not what I'm looking for him. Just have good at-bats every time, and he has the power to break one open if he absolutely needs to. You get a hit and 2 RBI from Josh Naylor. As Chris Crawford joins.
Bye.
He joins and then leaves right away. That's kind of that's a very Chris Crawford move, just to hop in, say something real quick, and then go. He has lots of stuff to do today with NFL cut downs going on right now, working for NBC. So we're giving him the day off today. I get to break down this awesome Mariners game. 11-4, the Seattle Mariners win this one. We're going to talk about Cal, how special he is. We're going to talk about Logan and his start. I want to ask you guys who you guys think the ace of the staff is right now, because it's been a discussion all year, for better or for worse. At some points, it's like, okay, you have so many good pitchers that you're like, okay, who do I want starting at game 1? And then at times, rip headphone users, says Claire. That's so true. I'm wearing my headphones right now. I was scared by that. I was looking at a different screen. Oh man, that was fun. But no, it was good to have Chris come in and pop in and say hi. But no, it's a win for the 2018 draft class, and they put it on the broadcast today. And Logan Gilbert and Cal Raleigh both drafted in the 2018 draft for the Seattle Mariners, and man, both those guys have been awesome for this team. Cal has his long-term extension. Logan has yet to get his, but I have a feeling it's coming. We'll see what ends up happening here pretty quick. But I want to ask you guys what you guys think. Who is the ace of this staff right now? Like I was saying before, Chris jumped in and rudely interrupted me. At some points, it was like you have so many good pitchers that it's like, okay, who do you feel the best about? And then recently it's been, I don't know if we have an ace. So who do you really trust in the big moments? And you get 2 really good starts from Brian Wu and Logan Gilbert in the last 2 games. George Kirby was pretty good yesterday. You could throw him in the conversation. I think it's one of those 2 guys. It's between Brian Wu and Logan Gilbert at this point. But I'm really curious what you guys think. You can comment in here. We'll go through our unsung hero as well. We're going to do the whole kit and caboodle today as the Mariners win this series against the Athletics. I keep wanting to say the Oakland Athletics, but they're not Oakland anymore. Chris will get mad at me for saying that, but that is the case. So we're live from the beach house here on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. My wife's doing her puzzle right next to me. It's excellent. The Mariners get the win 11-4. I didn't have to sweat it one bit. We got Taylor Saucedo pitching for 2 innings. And Taylor Saucedo looks so much better when you're pitching with an 8-run lead than when you're pitching down by 1 in a big situation. Doesn't he? God, it feels so much different with him in there. That's the situation he is supposed to be used in. So hopefully Dan Wilson learned his lesson there. But yeah, I want to do a little something different. We've done this a few times recently, but since I don't have Chris with me today, I want to go up and down the lineup, kind of talking about each individual player, because I think you could point out almost a contribution from each guy today, which is great when you're getting that type of depth in your lineup. And we've been kind of asking for that, especially in this athletic series, because the A's don't have very good pitching. And if you were to show me the 3 starters in the A's series, the probable starters.
Big dumper. Is that better? Is it a little better, quieter?
Yeah, you scared a lot of folks.
I saw that. I saw in the chat that apparently I did. And I honestly, that's why I had to come back. I have 5 minutes. So I just I had to talk about this game. I'm not going to go for 5 minutes long, by the way. I
Go for 5 minutes long. It's okay.
Holy shit. Holy crap. I don't think I can do it. I just don't think I can do it. I did say the word. I'm sorry. This was my favorite Mariner game in a long time. And some of that has to do with just how crappy they had looked in the past week plus, right? Something along those lines.
Yep.
Logan Gilbert was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I'm starting to wonder if Luis Castillo's had issues on the road. Maybe Logan Gilbert is the guy we got to talk about here, about being so much better at home than he is away from Safeco, T-Mobile, Boost Mobile. Like he looked so good. The slider and the splitter in particular today were so good. Carlos Vargas was really bad. Really bad. That's
hey, you know what? When you score 11 runs,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that's, you know what? I joked about it on Facebook not Facebook, social media. I joked about it on thank you for reminding us how crappy the first day Eugenio Suarez trade was. That's just all that was. Like, that was just a way of saying, hey, remember, this is what we got for in the first place for this.
Gino
guy,
gets another 2 walks today. I was saying he's looking so much more comfortable at the plate.
So much more comfortable at the plate. Yeah. I just love this. And Cal Raleigh, man,
story of the day, easily.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And the thing is, we still got 30 games to go, folks. Like, the next thing is can he break Griffey's record? Can he get the 8 that he needs over the next, 31 games, something along those lines, 30, somewhere around that. That's hard. That's hard, right? To get it puts him at about the same homer pace he's on right now, though. Can he break that record? Now, on top of everything that matters right here, that is definitely, I think, the biggest individual storyline right now for the Seattle Mariners, right? Can Cal Raleigh break a record that I wasn't sure anyone was going to break for the Seattle Mariners, to be honest with you, because it's so hard to hit homers now in this park. I know offensively they tell you that the stuff, it's still not like an easy place to hit homers. No. It's more of a neutral park, right? You need some
for homers specifically.
First homer specifically, you need some big boy strength to be able to do it. To be able to do what he's done over these 130 games. And both of those home runs today were just like, they were not skyscrapers, right? They weren't things where you were wondering what was going to go. They were just clobbered. And by the way, Jacob Lopez had been pitching really well. Oh, Jacob Lopez was not good today. And the Seattle Mariners took advantage of it. And then some. So I don't know, man. I know it's 11-4 is the final score. It's so much more than that today. I love the Julio little blooper hit today as well. I love that little, just because, the results weren't great for him. I know he hit a couple of balls really hard last night that I should have done a better job mentioning about.
I said it a couple times. I did it for you.
You did it. Yeah, 100%. But I said horrible day, and it was an inaccurate description of his day. So sure. I will own that one. But it was nice to see him just with 2 strikes, fight that ball off, dump it into center field, and basically guarantee that this was going to be a blowout, right? Like, guarantee that you weren't going to have to worry about it.
Question for you. Does Cal have to get 62 to win the MVP?
No, but he's going to need Aaron Judge to keep struggling, right? Like, that's going to be the biggest thing is if he does get 62, and Judge isn't going to get there now because of how much time he missed and because he's just kind of going through it a little bit right now. I don't think he's 100% healthy or even close, but that's a really good question. If he does get to 62 and he doesn't win MVP,
I think he's got it.
Yeah,
but I think he gets 62, I think he's got it.
I haven't checked the betting markets in a while, but I have to imagine he's the favorite now to win.
It's like very, very close. It's almost a dead even between those two, to be completely honest. And I'm not going to toot our own horns. I'm not a victory lap guy, as you always say.
No,
you first people on this. I'm not going to lie. Back in May, early June, we were like, Cal for MVP. I know Judge is hitting 400, but Cal is he's got it going right now. So let's give ourselves some credit. Who was your guy besides Cal today that got the job done? offense.
I like the at-bats Victor Robles took today. I really like the at-bats that Randy Arozarena took today. And
yes, that is a leadoff hitter, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure. Yeah. I like what he's been, even with the results not being great. And he had a tough one yesterday outside of the homer. Now, outside of the homer is kind of a weird thing to say, right? You hit a home run, you're having a pretty good day. But there were some rough at-bats, including that one to end the game, right? That wasn't Randy Arozarena at his best. But for the most part, I think he has looked the part in that leadoff spot. Polanco, I thought, swung the bat pretty well today. Yeah. It was just a really good offensive day against. I like the patience that we saw too. Suarez drawing those couple of walks, right? Like that's important because you need to give pitchers reasons to throw a Eugenio strikes, right? Like at times he's not like he's not somebody who's just completely a Unieski Betancourt where he just won't walk at all, right? But he is someone at times where he can get a little swing happy and doesn't always draw those free passes. When he draws his free passes, he is so much better of a hitter. Josh Naylor, I thought that double was awesome to see as well. The whole offense, I think outside of Garver, looked pretty good today, right? And maybe Garver
everyone gets on base. Every starter gets on base. Oh, and he's gone.
I just hit the wrong button. I'm sorry about that. I got excited. I got really excited. I just wanted to jump scare one more time. No,
that's fair.
I needed this, right? And as frustrating as yesterday was, and it was ever so frustrating, this was, if yesterday was, let's say 3.86 steps backwards, today was 11.92 steps forward to me. I just think that today was a day where you got right. Somebody just wrote, we needed this. We needed this to happen, right? You needed that reminder. And you know what? It's not just about the Mariners. Let's consider fanning a sport, right? Sometimes it feels like it is. We as fans sometimes need that reminder of how good this team can be, right? We need that reminder of like, what this team, when they're at their very best, can do to kind of calm us a little bit, right? Today was a weirdly calming game. Like okay,
we're all right. Everything's okay.
Yes. You have to lose games. You have to have stretches like they just had. Every team goes through them unless you are the 2001 Seattle Mariners or unless you are the 2025 or 2024 White Sox or Rockies. Those are just what they are, right? Like those aren't streaks. They're just what those teams are. By the way, Rockies eliminated from playoff contention. Go ahead and tear up those tickets, Anders. I know you put a lot of money on the Rockies to the postseason. This was a wonderful. People mention get right games all the time, and a lot of times I think it's bull crap. I don't think this one's bull crap. This one felt different to me, and maybe I just wanted it. Maybe I just really wanted it. Yeah.
Context matters too, because as Jolly points out here, now you have not gained or lost any ground in the Astros race because they lost today in the last 3 days. So
Trevor
you get
Rogers.
back to 2 games. Yeah, Trevor Rogers is a beast. Fantasy team. Let's go. Come on. But no, he's like, now it's like, okay, we're back. Let's go. We're still within striking distance here. We're not falling back any farther than the 3 games that we were yesterday. I'm feeling pretty good about this division race. I still believe the Mariners are a better team than the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
They just got to prove it for the last month of the season.
Just real quick, and then I got to go. To answer that question, because I don't think we could ever overstate the improvement that Cal Raleigh has made from the right side. It's now 30-19. That's it's not an even split, obviously, but that's very close to a 60-40 split. And when you have a 60-40 split from a switch hitter, by the way, he breaks Mickey Mantle's record for most homers twice in a game for a switch hitter, which is really freaking impressive if you're breaking a Mickey Mantle record. Just the improvement from the right side. Like, I honestly feel more confident watching Raleigh hit from the right side right now. Like, if
you look at his splits, he has a better OPS from the right side.
He does have a better, and I just think he's seeing the better baseball better from that side right now. Like, and I will say that strikeout after he hits the 2 home runs, I've never seen a hitter swinging harder in my entire life, right? Like I saw
It's
him,
okay.
it's
okay.
That's totally fine. Yes, it would have
Yes.
been frustrating if this was like a close game, you know what I mean? And like, like, hey man, you can't let this get to you right now. But holy crap on a cracker, did anyone deserve a swing for the fence type of at bat more than Cal Raleigh in that at bat? But it does just appear like he's picking up the baseball better. I actually was really encouraged that I saw him smash that single in the 9th inning as well from the left side. Like it was a nice, all right, he's staying within himself. It's going to be fine. Cal Raleigh is going to be an awesome offensive player. I'm sorry I took up so much of your time.
No, last question before you leave.
Please,
last question.
Go.
Has he already secured the best catcher season of all time?
Offensively, yes. I think so. And then when you add in the defense and stuff, we're going to talk on Mollywop Monday about framing and why it matters for Cal Raleigh, because there's a lot of talk from some people I respect who are saying some not so nice things about framing, but it's a misunderstanding of what framing actually is. And I'll spoil it here for you just for a second. It's not just about the fact that you are stealing strikes. It's the fact that you are keeping strikes being called strikes. That is the biggest part of framing, is making sure that those strikes don't get called balls. It's not about getting balls called strikes. That's great. If you can get that done, that's superb. It's about making sure that where that pitch is placed where it is supposed to be. And that is why Cal Raleigh is such a special baseball player, because you can do that stuff offensively. And on top of that, he might be the greatest framer in the history of the sport.
August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Perhaps you believe the Green Bay Packers are going to win the Super Bowl, or maybe you have some division winner dark horses you'd like to parlay. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game.
Zack Wheeler is officially done for the year.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We got the news on Zack Wheeler, and unfortunately, I think it was the news that most of us, like deep down, if you had asked us, honestly, what do you expect? He's probably done. And he is. We're going to talk about that. I'll read you a statement from the Phillies. So we'll talk about what this means in general for the team, for Wheels, his future, anything like that. So we will lead off with that. We also are going to talk about Juan Duran blowing his first save as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies and having a bit of a sketchy one last night, Saturday as well in Game 2. So he's human. How worried should we be? Well, we'll discuss. And Aaron Nola made his second start back off the injured list. So his second start since May and looked better. So what does it mean? How much do we buy into it? There's a lot of stuff pitching-wise to get into in this episode. If you're like, well, Connor, they've been hitting the ball pretty well this series too, or hitting the ball all right at least. We will talk about the series. When the series is done, that will encompass everything, right? So this is just more of a, I needed to talk about Wheeler, and we'll fill you in on the series as it's going with the Nationals. But Zack Wheeler is done for the year. Here's the statement from the Philadelphia Phillies. Right-handed pitcher Zack Wheeler had a follow-up evaluation and received second opinions this week after a successful right upper extremity blood clot removal on Monday, August 18th. Wheeler was diagnosed with venous thoracic outlet syndrome, and the recommendation is to undergo thoracic outlet decompression surgery in the coming weeks. So another procedure for Wheeler. Details of the surgery are forthcoming. The timeline of recovery from the surgery is generally 6 to 8 months. So here's the most important thing. They are continuing to diagnose Zack Wheeler, give him the best possible options for his health, everything of that nature, right? This is more important than just baseball. So in the grand sense of we should all hope that Zack Wheeler is healthy and okay as a person, this is good news. Now, for the Philadelphia Phillies, obviously this does not help them this season. We're all pulling for Wheels. Hopefully he ends up all good by the end of this. Now, it's August, right? So 6 months, September, October, November, December, January, February, could be ready by March. Could be ready by May if it's at the back end where it's 8 months worth of time. But that's the full recovery for that. He might miss the start of next year. So he's absolutely not pitching again this season, and he should not pitch again this season. It's a scary condition, and we'll see how he even recovers, because this is what I want to talk about, right? There's a real chance that Zack Wheeler never recovers from this, right? He never comes back. At least he never looks like who he was before. Remember, if you know the symptoms, I guess the medical name for the issue, thoracic outlet syndrome, the Sixers had a situation with that. Markelle Fultz, former number 1 overall pick of the Philadelphia 76ers, had thoracic outlet syndrome and never looked the same, really. Like, now there were a lot of other issues with that, and that's for the folks on Locked On Sixers to talk about. But my point is this is something that could throw guys off significantly with how things feel, how things work, how your body moves, and what's healthy or not for you to participate in. So that's troubling for Zack Wheeler. And he's already said that at the end of this contract, he's going to be done. So let's look at where we're at right now. We have no Zack Wheeler for the rest of the year. He might miss part of next year. It might be a good chunk of next year, depending on how the recovery goes. This timeline could easily be extended because I want Zack Wheeler alive. I don't really care about him throwing a baseball as much as I care about him being alive and well for his family. All right. And then 2027, we've talked about it on this podcast many times, but it could be a work stoppage year. Like, it could be a strike year for the players. And that would lead to maybe even losing a significant part or all of the 2027 season, which is Wheeler's final year under contract. So could you imagine, just like he has a setback, he misses all of next year out of an abundance of precaution or an abundance of caution, I guess I should say. And then there's a strike in 2027, and all of a sudden Zack Wheeler never throws for the Phillies again. I know I'm coming up with this doomsday scenario, but I'm just trying to build proper expectations that this is not just, hey, he hurt his knee, we get this surgery, he's ready in 6 months, whatever, let's roll. No, this is a legitimate, scary medical condition that's going to take a while. So now, and I know Phillies fans are doing this, right? Because I got text messages during radio shows. I got responses and replies and comments to the podcast. We don't know what's going on with Wheeler. We're not doctors. He could be back. He could be fine. This could be like just a quick turnaround. And I've been telling you, my assumption was he's going to be done. And that assumption is correct. But I can't blame Phillies fans for wanting to be positive, right? I can't blame you for saying, what if the best case scenario happens and he's fine? What if we're all overreacting to this and everything like that? And obviously the health is first and foremost. So don't take this as putting his baseball over his health. But there were Phillies fans who believed the best could happen and he could be back quickly. And now we all have to come to terms with the fact that Zack Wheeler is no longer pitching for this baseball team. So what does it mean? Well, your World Series odds are significantly, significantly lowered. You just lost one of the top 3 to 5 pitchers in the National League, right? And I would have him way up there when it comes to where he ranks in the National League as far as starting pitching. Christopher Sanchez has been very good. He's now the ace. Guys like Aaron Nola, Jesus Luzardo, and Ranger Suarez, and Taijuan Walker are going to have to continue to step up. They're going to have to pitch at their best from pretty much now at the end of August to the end of October. That's a 2-month stretch where you're going to need above what their watermark is from those guys, right? You can't just have a middling rotation. You got to have dudes step up because that was the strength of this team, and that's how they were winning games. So I don't know. We're going to talk later on in the episode about Aaron Nola looking better in his second start back because I liked what I saw from Aaron Nola yesterday, but he's not ready to just step into a playoff rotation right now. Maybe he'll get there, but we're not there yet. Taijuan Walker, his start against the Nationals on Friday, not bad, but 3-run home run in the first inning, you're immediately down, and it just reminds you, oh, yeah, okay. So this guy's been pretty darn good for the Phillies this year, but he's also a dude that can implode at any minute. As is Jesus Luzardo, as is Ranger Suarez. You pretty much have one sure thing right now in the rotation, and it's Christopher Sanchez. And hey, that's a better sure thing than most teams in baseball have. So I'm not saying it's a bad place to be, but the Phillies are in a tough spot. I want to wrap this up with one thing that does not have anything to do with Zack Wheeler, but it is a proof of point of why some people need to listen better as to how baseball works. This Zack Wheeler thing, nobody could have seen coming. You cannot prepare for it. You cannot expect it. So the Phillies are dealing with these unforeseen circumstances that crush their World Series potential. Now, do they still have a chance? Yes. Is it a good chance? No. And that's where we're at right now. But my point is this, right? To anyone who is looking at the trade deadline and saying, you need to go all in. You need to acquire more. Go get Eugenio Suarez. Go get another reliever and build this bullpen up and make it monstrous. Maybe add another just defensive player in the outfield, right? Just you need more because this is potentially Kyle Schwarber's last year and JT's last year and Castellanos maybe could be moved and Rangers last year and all of this stuff, right? You want this team to win and you want them to win now, and it's a big-time spot. But John Middleton talked about this earlier in the year, about how in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? 9, 10, 11, they made great moves. They made great acquisitions, and those players played well, and it just didn't work out. And John Middleton talked about that, and he's like, that's part of the risk of baseball. There's so much uncertainty. There's so much unforeseen that's going to happen to this team. There's so much you got to get hot versus be the better team. The Brewers are not the better team than the Dodgers right now. Tell me who's got the better record. Because the Brewers just got red hot and are rolling, right? Nobody would have predicted that. And that's why it's baseball. It's unpredictable. But I say that to say this. Could you imagine if you had traded Andrew Painter, Aiden Miller, Justin Crawford, and you had gone out and gotten like 2 more big-time players, and you empty your farm system for this year, and then Zack Wheeler goes down? Immediately, the conversation once you lose Zack Wheeler is, are we good enough to win the World Series? It doesn't feel like we are, because we lost one of, if not our best arms in the staff in general. And that is not something they could have predicted. But because Dave Dombrowski went heavy on the bullpen, light in the outfield, and kept some prospects, you are now protected from the risk of something like this going wrong. And that's what you need to understand. You can't just trade everybody. You can't just trade everything. You have to make smart, prudent moves that help this team. And hopefully they're enough to pay off.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
Malik Beasley is no longer the target of a federal gambling investigation that started before free agency.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast.
Malik Beasley has been, I don't want to say cleared, the exact wording of the tweet. I want to make sure I get the exact wording correctly. Shams tweeted out today, breaking, Malik Beasley is no longer a target of the federal gambling investigation conducted by the Eastern District of New York. His attorneys told ESPN. This potentially reopens free agency for one of the NBA's top shooters. So, with that said, there's been a lot of reactions, obviously, and a lot of people in the Pistons community are super excited because it's like, okay, Malik Beasley's going to come back now. He's going to come back to the Detroit Pistons. So, I want to start off, we're going to first talk about the financial situation, how it makes sense financially, why it doesn't make sense financially. We'll dive into that. And then later on, the next segment, we'll talk about the roster fit and whether it's still a roster fit for Malik Beasley. But first, we're going to start financially. The Pistons, before free agency started, it was rumored that they were going to hand Malik Beasley a 3-year contract worth the MLE, which was going to be around $14 million. That was something that they seemed to have agreed upon. Then obviously this news broke. The whole gambling stuff broke. And the Pistons had to pivot away. I do want to make something very clear. The Pistons did not pivot away, and those of us that said the Pistons had to pivot away, it was not because of whether Malik Beasley was innocent or guilty. The most shocking part about this to me is not the fact that he's been, he's no longer a target, he's been moved on, for whatever you want to call it. That's not the shocking part to me. The shocking part to me is how quickly this happened. Terry Rozier is still under investigation. That happened earlier this year. Like, these things usually take a long time, which is why the Pistons pivoted, which is why you guys had people like myself saying the Pistons cannot sit around and just wait for Malik Beasley. They have to move on. They have to pivot because you don't know how long this is going to take. Now, fortunately for Malik Beasley, it looks like it wrapped up pretty quickly. So that was the most shocking part to me, is how fast it happened. But not the part of whether he was innocent or guilty. I didn't comment on that. I don't think people really should have been commenting on that because it didn't matter whether he was innocent or guilty because the Pistons were going to have to change their plans in free agency nonetheless. Like, that wasn't why they had to move on. But now let's shift into the financials. Like I said, the Pistons were going to offer him a 3-year contract. They cannot offer him that no more. They used up that money. They used up the MLE, I believe, on Karis LeVert, and then signed and traded for Duncan Robinson. They no longer have that type of cap space to give Malik Beasley that type of money. The most the Pistons can offer Malik Beasley is a $7.2 million contract. Now, they could technically make this a multi-year contract, but Malik Beasley would never accept something like that. It would most likely be a 1-year, $7.2 million contract the Pistons offer him. That is the most that they can offer him. I do want to make this clear because I've already seen a lot of people in the community asking these questions, which is why I wanted to record this quick and get it out there for you guys. The Pistons can sign and trade Malik Beasley, but I'm not sure how that would really help because it's not like they can sign Malik Beasley to more than that $7.2 million to then trade him. There's other teams, and we'll get into that in just a second, that just have more cap space than the Detroit Pistons right now that can just offer him more money. So can the Pistons sign and trade him? They could, but it doesn't make much sense for them to do so. It doesn't make much sense for other teams to do it. And it doesn't make much sense for Malik Beasley to agree to something like that. So that's where they sit right now. The Pistons are just over $21 million under the luxury tax, so that's why they have the $7.2 million available for them. That's the most they can offer him. As of right now, there are multiple other teams that have cap space that could offer Malik Beasley more money than the Detroit Pistons could offer him. You got the Brooklyn Nets, who have straight up $15 million in cap space they can offer him. You got the Charlotte Hornets, who have $14.1 million, the MLE. Chicago, same thing, has the MLE at $14.1 million. Indiana has it at $13.5. Miami has a $7.3 million MLE. OKC has an $8.5 million MLE. Sacramento has a $7.3 million MLE. Washington has a $14.1 MLE. And our friend over at Spot Track, Keith Smith, says that Golden State Warriors could get involved and have some more money to offer him, or have more money to offer him than the Detroit Pistons, but they are currently tied up in the whole Jonathan Kuminga thing, so that makes it complicated for them if they were to want to get involved with Malik Beasley. So that's where we stand right now financially. My opinion on this, before we move on to Malik Beasley's, fit on the roster, if there's even a fit for him roster-wise, if I was Malik Beasley, and I'm nowhere near trying to really get deep into any of the stuff that we've learned about over the last few months, the reports, all that stuff. I'm not trying to get deep into it. You can just stay basic surface level with this. If I was Malik Beasley, and if any of this stuff that was reported on was even remotely true, and I just played the best year of my career, I'm not taking a pay cut to go back to the Detroit Pistons. If the Charlotte Hornets want to offer me $14 million, I am going and taking that. If Chicago offers me $14 million, I am going and taking that. Washington, I am going and taking that. Indiana, I'm going and taking that. Brooklyn, I am going and taking that. I am not taking a discount when I just played the best season of my career. And again, I'm not trying to get too crazy into it. I'm trying to just stay surface level. I want/need the money. I'm not taking a discount. Like that. If it was me, that's just me being straight up. I'm not taking no discount. It's not happening. I deserve this money. He deserves this money. He deserves $14 million. He deserves that. I'm not taking a discount, especially on top of everything else. It's not happening. So if it was me, I would not be going back to the Detroit Pistons. If I'm Malik Beasley, I love what I did with the Pistons. I love the team. I love my teammates. I love the city. I loved everything about my time there. But at the end of the day, I got to think about myself and do what's best for me financially. And if I was Beasley, I would be going to Brooklyn, Charlotte, Chicago, Indiana, Washington. Like, if any of those teams show interest, and apparently there's another team that has interest, according to Clutch Points, the New York Knicks, not Clutch Points, I'm sorry. Ian Begley reported it first. Where is he? He's somewhere in New York. What is this, the New York Sports Television? He reported that the Knicks may have interest in him as well. So if I'm just Malik Beasley, could the Pistons sign him to that one-year deal? Yes, and then they would have his rights for next year and then give him a big payday next year. Could that happen? 100%. That still is on the board. Because I think it's more likely that if I'm just putting myself in Malik Beasley's shoes, I probably wouldn't do that. I would go get my money right now and more financial stability somewhere else if I have to do that. It is what it is.
August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Perhaps you believe the Green Bay Packers are going to win the Super Bowl, or maybe you have some division winner dark horses you'd like to parlay. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game.
Carson Wentz is in, Sam Howell and Brett Rippon are out.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast.
The news, of course, is that the Vikings have made some switches at the quarterback position. Their quarterback room is now J.J. McCarthy, Max Brosmer, and Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was a name floated back in March. He never joined a team. So he now joins the Vikings for the lowest you can possibly pay him. I actually think the money between him and Sam Howell works out to exactly a wash because of veteran credits and stuff you don't need to worry about. But as a corresponding thing, they've released Brett Rippon, which was expected after that third preseason game. Max Brosmer pretty handily outplayed him in what was very clearly a winner go, a mano-a-mano, one man and two men enter, one man leaves kind of situation. But they also traded Sam Howell to the Philadelphia Eagles. The fact that this comes with Carson Wentz corresponding is kind of funny and ironic because of the last time quarterbacks got traded between the Vikings and Eagles and how much it also had to do with Carson Wentz. But I digress. The Sam Howell trade nets the Vikings a 5-6 swap and a 7th next year. So they're on the good end of the 5-6 swap and a 7th next year. Or 7th in 2027, not next year. So if you're keeping track at home, the Vikings got Sam Howell in the draft for a 5-5 swap. They swapped a 5th for a different 5th that was 30 spots lower and got Sam Howell for it. And when they traded Sam Howell to the Eagles, they managed to take an entire 6th and turn it into the Eagles' 5th. Interesting little fairy dust moment where you can make a little extra value out of nothing for a player that played pretty poorly in camp and, played poorly in one of his 2 preseason games and ultimately didn't get the QB2 job. I wonder how long the Vikings had Carson Wentz in their minds, but also if they did not bringing, he was sitting on the couch. He could have been there for camp, right? Even if you had 5 QBs for camp. I mean, shoot, the Browns had 6. That's not crazy. And he could have been, spending camp with the Vikings, with the receivers, getting chemistry and becoming a better backup. But as it is, they probably thought that Howell was a preferable option to Wentz and that Wentz would be like a backup if Howell crashes out. Well, Howell totally flames, crashes, burns. And so they go with this. Some other news happened. We'll get into some cuts. And then I was just kind of trying to think through Carson Wentz as a backup quarterback. This is the only place you're going to get serious Carson Wentz analysis from me because it's a football party or the squad show where Arif is. I'm not there. I'm going to have bad intentions, but thinking through him and the way that his career has gone as a backup quarterback, is interesting. And it's what he's done for the last 2 years. So it's not like we're, taking some big grand experiment, but I think it's worth talking out and sort of recounting Carson Wentz's NFL career and how it came to the point that it is right now, from being, a 2017 MVP favorite and Super Bowl winner, and even in the couple years after that, being seen as one of the upper echelon QBs in the league, and then flaming out as hard as he did. Boy, it's fascinating, and I think it's worth going back over through the lens of how does that make you as a backup. So, real quick before I get into that, and then we'll do questions and hot takes afterwards from the mailbag. We're doing an early mailbag because I've got a 53-man roster projection coming out tomorrow. But there is some other news. The Vikings have begun their process of camp cutdowns. For full transparency with my 53-man roster projection, because this is the one I try to get as right as possible, I've already done it. I have it done. I will tell you what it is tomorrow, but I have it done. So if I end up being wrong about something, I will be honest about that. I guess I'm a podcaster. How much do you trust me? But I'll tell you, here's who I had, and I was wrong about it. But other Vikings that have been waived are Travis Bell, Robert Lewis, Silas Bolden. Not a huge surprise in any of these, but Silas Bolden was one that was in a lot of people's pre-camp 53-man rosters and stuff. I think I might have even had him in one at some point. Nope, never did. Ben Solak rule. But I mean, he had a terrible preseason, so it kind of makes sense. These early ones are definitely still practice squad candidates, depending on, I mean, a lot of that is you're kind of coasting on like draft profile and athleticism and stuff and saying, well, maybe with a year you can get better at all the stuff that got you cut. Zach Bailey, who just joined the team real quick for that last game. He was a tackle. Logan Brown, another exciting undrafted free agent that did not pan out, but I do see him on the practice squad for exactly that reason. He was pretty highly regarded. I think it was the best undrafted rookie on the consensus board of this class for the Vikings. Mish Powell, Trey Stewart, Keenan Garber, and Reddy Stewart. Reddy Stewart was maybe the only one that I thought maybe had snuck an outside chance to make the team. It's because Matt Freese floated that idea, and it kind of made sense to me that he played pretty well in a game where both Dwight McGlothern and Zemiah Vaughn did not. And maybe there's some movement happened, but I guess not. And then also Cam Gill was released, which is a different thing because he's a vested veteran, so it's a different word. It works different. Same with Brett Rippon. So the QB room now is J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Max Brosmer. In case anybody is not a Vikings fan or is totally unplugged from J.J. McCarthy, I've been getting these questions a lot. Maybe you guys do too if you're like super diehard Vikings fans, of people asking, hey, what does this Carson Wentz news mean about J.J. McCarthy? So it maybe will sound abundantly obvious to all of you, but just in case, let me put it on record that there is no expectation that Carson Wentz would ever compete with J.J. McCarthy. There's no understanding of there's going to be a short leash because we're going to think about putting this guy in. There is no idea whatsoever of Carson Wentz being any kind of potential starter. Not that I know of right now.